Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
It's about that time again, folks. It's about that time that only comes around one time a year. Playoff basketball is back. So we're really fucking stupid, and we like to do this annual thing where we predict the playoffs. And when I tend to make anything basketball related, it's always based on logic or stats, but not this one. No, completely off vibes. Nothing but vibes. Now, I watch way more basketball than, your average Joe. Some might even say that it's extremely unhealthy. I spend a lot of my free time watching men dribble the play-in tournament. Hey, so when I was actually making this video, I realized something kind of sad. One or even two of these guys are not going to be making the postseason this year. Or maybe even all three, because Jalen Green's kind of playing like Michael Jordan right now. Which is kind of sad, but also very entertaining to watch. Because who doesn't want to watch Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, and LeBron James all play extremely high-stakes basketball? I, for one, couldn't actually think of a better way of spending my evening. But before we even get to that side of the bracket, let's go to the East. Miami versus Philly. Here's the thing, right? I have this weird suspicion right now, and it's about how Miami are kind of trying to play Boston. This might be crazy. Maybe I'm just crazy, but I think Philly beats Miami. Miami drops into the losers bracket to play Atlanta, who beats Chicago. But then I think Miami's going to beat Atlanta to ultimately then go on and play Boston, making your Eastern Conference playoff picture. I have a message to either Orlando or Indiana, who play tomorrow night and who play very, very important games. I need both of you guys to finish the season off very strong. And I know Orlando play Philly tomorrow, who are currently on a 6-game win streak. Why am I picking Orlando to beat Philly? I don't know. I'm pretty fucking stupid. But this entire prediction kind of rests on those two teams and how they finish the season out. And because I'm stupid and I'm making this video way too early, or not way too early, I mean the season ends literally in a couple of days. If you lose and you make me look fucking stupid, well, I'm not gonna do anything about it, actually. Please don't do that. It wouldn't be very nice. Let's take a trip to the wild, wild west. And I mean that quite literally. This is kind of fucked. Well, at least Twitter is going to be very fun on this night. Warriors versus Lakers. I would love to pick against LeBron James, but I'm a Raptors fan, and yeah, I don't pick against LeBron. The Lakers are going to beat Golden State, and Phoenix is also going to beat Sacramento. Phoenix are then going to slide into the 7th spot. Sacramento is going to drop into the losers bracket to play the Lakers, but then Sacramento is sadly going to fall out of the playoffs, and the Lakers are going to fall into the 8th spot, making your Western Conference playoff picture. God, I'm going to look stupid in a couple of days, aren't I? So if everything goes to plan, this is how the playoffs should actually look like. We're going to start off with the East and then actually go over to the West. So round 1, Boston versus Miami. Two teams with a lot of history, especially in the last couple of years, and who know each other very, very well. So this is how I think it's going to go. I think Boston are going to win the first 2 games, then Miami are going to edge out another 2 games, making the series tied again. But this is where all of that changes. Boston take the next 2 games pretty convincingly. Miami's out. Boston advance to the next round. Miami kept the series pretty competitive, but Boston just have too much weapons, and Miami sadly go home. Now we move on to Milwaukee versus Philly, which is kind of a crazy series now that I'm actually saying it. How the hell does this even happen? I mean, Joel Embiid missed 40 games. That's how that happened. But you get what I mean. This is definitely not a first round matchup. And the fact that you were seeing it in the first round is kind of insane. Actually, there's just one slight tad bit of an issue. Giannis just got hurt. It was a no contact injury as well, which means pretty serious. That sucks, man. It's not a series without him. Because, well, one, he's very, very good, and two, I mean, Milwaukee they don't really have an actual chance, especially with Joel Embiid having his first season where he's actually very, very healthy going into the playoffs. Maybe a bit rusty, but definitely healthy. Or I don't even think you could say rusty because he's been dominant since he's come back. So we're not going to really go very in depth into this series because I'm not really sure doesn't look like Giannis is probably going to be playing game 1, maybe not even game 2. And even if he does end up coming back, he's going to be injured. So I don't know. I don't really think this one's going to be close. We're going to go with 4-1 Philly if Giannis doesn't come back, and we're gonna go with 4-2 Philly if Giannis does come back. That's unfortunate, man. How interesting. Cleveland versus Orlando. Wow, that could be sneaky, a very, very good series as well. Orlando, very, very young team. Cleveland, also a very young team, but more so young, but a lot of their young guys have a lot of years in the NBA minus Mobley. But you know what I don't like about these teams? Because I like these teams a lot. Both of these teams have this weird, annoying issue. It's either 100 or 0. It's either make or break. Like one night they're playing amazing, and the next night they look horrible. Like one night Cleveland playing fucking phenomenal, and then another night it looks like Donovan Mitchell hates everybody. He doesn't want to move off the ball. Dude's just like sitting in the corner. On defense, they're not really rotating well. They're not switching well. Evan Mobley and Jared Allen at times, even like their communication, it's not as good. I don't know what happened. Like I understand that JB is a well-respected coach amongst, his peers and everything, but I don't think he gets enough flack. He's had his fair share of injuries this year, but so has, everybody that's around him. I mean, the East has been kind of beat up this year, if we're being honest, because he really does not have his players in check, if I'm being totally honest, in terms of what they're doing, how they're doing, where they are, where their teammates are, and just it looks constantly sometimes unorganized. And with the amount of talent that is on that roster, it is I don't think it's a player thing. I think it's a coach thing. They have like sometimes these random collapses in games, or they come out really like flat-footed, like against the Lakers, where literally just they got beat everywhere. Like they'll come out good against the Clippers, then slowly fade out as the game goes on, and it's like it's sad. It's tough because there's a lot of very, very talented players on that roster. Sorry, I went on a fucking tangent about the Cavs. That was more so for the Cavs than Orlando. My bad. But yeah. Well, I just want to talk about Orlando, specifically Paolo Banchero, who is in his second season in the NBA and is leading his team to the playoffs. Not only as like, a playing team or anything, like there's a good chance. I don't know where they're going to finish because it's really close right now, but there's a good chance they can finish within the top 3 in his second season, which is insane. He's their number 1 option. I don't think that gets talked about enough. I think he's having he's having a great season right now, and I don't think it's getting like overshadowed, but by nothing. People don't really talk about it. People are like, oh, he's good. It's his second season in the NBA, and it isn't like he came into a system that was already winning. He's the one that came in alongside a couple other guys and helped build it. So the fact that it doesn't really get acknowledged or talked about is insane, because you don't come in and just start winning. That's not how winning starts. You got to be a different type of person to come in and like help push your team and, take a couple of guys with you all the way to the top. I think it's going to be a very close series, but I do have Cleveland winning in 6. I think Orlando's inexperience is going to somewhat play a factor, but I do think they're going to leave with 2 playoff wins, and that's going to cap off their great season, and I see Cleveland going through into the next round. New York versus Indiana. People are calling this a boring series, which is... Why are you calling this a boring series? I don't even like OG just came back for New York too. This is not a boring series at all. If anything, you could argue this series could easily go to 7 games, but I don't think it's going to go to 7 games. Give me New York in 5. Yeah, 5. All right, let's go to the West. Denver versus the Lakers. I'm not talking about this series because it's a cakewalk. It's a cakewalk for Denver. No disrespect, but I think we got to talk about the bigger issue at hand, and that is the trauma that LeBron James has caused me and my team. I think Masai should draft Bronny, and I think we should all unanimously agree that we ban LeBron from attending any games so he can't watch his son play basketball. In fact, I would love to what the fuck am I going to do? I hope we draft Bronny and we actually develop him and we make him into a very, very good basketball player so that LeBron can never watch his son play basketball. Denver in 5. Next up, Minnesota versus Phoenix. You might have Kevin Durant, but we have Jaden McDaniels. Minnesota in 6. I'm sensing a pattern. The Pelicans versus the Thunder. Give me OKC in 5. The Mavericks versus the Clippers. Give me the Mavericks in 7. I've just kind of halfway realized that none of these picks actually... There's no really any sort of explanation to these picks. I'm just kind of doing them. Because you can't predict the playoffs. You can't predict whether or not someone's going to wake up on the right side of the bed that day. You can't predict shooting slumps. You can't predict choking. Shout out Rachel Nichols. Did I just hear that? Boston versus Cleveland. How do you think J. Cole is doing? You think J. Cole, is sitting back and realizing that he fucked up? Is he like, man, I shouldn't apologize? Because you know how you're just going about, your day, and then you kind of remember something you did a while back, and that you're kind of embarrassed about, and then you kind of sit there for a second, you're like, oh, that was pretty embarrassing. You think he's having those moments with the apology? I feel like he is, and I feel like that's going to be a reoccurring thing in his life. I hope his life is going well. I mean, he's a millionaire. He's good. Cleveland lose this series in 5. New York versus Philly. I feel like I'm the only one adding to this conversation. I feel like this is a one-sided conversation. I don't think you're talking enough. Philly in 6. What was the next game? Denver versus the Mavericks. That should be interesting. Very fun. Luka versus Jokic. It should be very interesting. You see, personally, I think that Jokic is the greatest player on this planet. But I actually think Luka should win MVP now. He actually, got up to the 5th seed, and I think he deserves the MVP maybe a little bit more than Jokic now. But I would be completely fine with anybody winning it. In all honesty, I know this entire thing has kind of been, maybe, because I'm forcing myself. I'm not leaving this room until I predict the NBA champion. I should probably hurry this up. Like the funnest series ever. Denver in this would literally 6 solve world hunger. Minnesota versus OKC. I actually watched women's basketball recently, and I actually enjoyed it. Are you waiting for a punchline? Because I'm not. There's no punchline here. You sexist pig. Minnesota versus OKC. Shea versus Ant. Nice. Should be fun. You know, there's a lot of good shows coming out in the summer. A lot of good shows. Great shows. Can't wait. OKC in 7. We made it to the conference finals. It's OKC versus Denver and Boston versus Philly. Celtics in 7. OKC are going to lose in 5. Denver versus Boston final. Jason Tatum is going to win absolutely nothing. Jokic will get another ring. Jamal Murray is probably the greatest Canadian to play basketball. The Denver Nuggets are your 2024 NBA champions. I love you. I hope you have a great rest of your day. My dad left.